Hey there, music students. It's Mr. Clegg with the second video. And now in this video, we're going to cover scales, and we're going to talk about the numbers of the scale and everything. So as we know from last time, this is a C, this is a D, E, F, whoops, there we go, G, A, and B. And then, of course, it goes up to C again. I don't really have to write that, but so there are 7 notes in a scale, but then we repeat, and that's the 8th note. So we can actually number these. We can actually number them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then it goes back to 1 again, but we call this, there's a special word for this. The 8 and the 1 are actually the same thing because it goes back. The word 8 is kind of done in Latin, I guess. I don't know if it's Latin or Italian, but the word is octave. And so that is the 8th note. So the octave is the same note again. That's the time when you come to the same note. So for example, if you went from a D to the next D, that would also be an octave. An E to the next E would be an octave. It's anytime you go up to the next note, that's the same letter again. And they kind of sound the same too. They kind of sound like they're the same pitch. There's a C, and there's the next C. There's a D, and there's the next D. E, and the next E, and so on. All right, so that is how that works. Now, so what I've just shown you, actually, all these notes are how to play a major scale. I think I'm going to erase one of these little guys here. Actually, I'll leave that one. I'm going to erase this so it's not so cluttered. But I'm going to show you how we play this. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. So here's the way we play a C scale. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. I'm going to play the 1 again. For some reason, those didn't all animate on the screen, but we heard them all. So those are our 8 notes. Obviously, the 8th one and the first one are the same note again. And the pattern here is, this is called a major scale. It happens, the C major is the only one that only uses the white keys. It doesn't use any of the black keys. So we use that when we first teach this because it's a little simpler. But in order to understand all these things, I need to teach you about half steps and whole steps. So a half step is, let's see if I can do this. Okay, there we go. So a half step is just one key on the piano, up or down, actually. And these are some intervals, right? The most basic interval is the interval between one key and the very next. So for example, from C to a C sharp, that's a half step. From a C sharp to a D is a half step. D to D sharp is a half step. But then, interestingly enough, from a B up to a C is also a half step. Right? So, and from an E to an F is also a half step. So it doesn't matter whether you're going up from a white key to a black key or between 2 white keys, that could be a half step either way. So it's just up 1 or down 1 to the next key on the piano. So I guess the better way to do this would say, I'm going to just pause this while I write I'll write the definition here. Okay, so here's the definition here. Half step is the interval between any 2 adjacent keys on a piano, regardless of whether they're white or black. So again, between B and C, or C and C sharp, or B flat and A. You could also say A sharp and A. That is a half step. Okay, and now the other thing I want to teach you is the definition of a whole step. I'll go ahead and pause it while I write that definition, then I'll share that with you. Okay, so we're back here. Now, a whole step is the same exact thing, except it's 2 jumps instead of 1. So I wrote the interval between 2 keys with 1 key between, or 2 moves away. So, whoa. So for example, from C to D is a whole step because there's a key in between, right? From D to E is a whole step. So that's a whole step. But now from E to F, that's not a whole step, that's a half step because there's just they're neighbors, right? So from E to F sharp would be a whole step, right? So E to F sharp, that's a whole step because there is a key in between, right? In other words, it's two jumps. If you were playing a game, you know, where you have to move your marker over when you roll the dice 2, you'd be like 1, 2. So, right, so from here you'd be like 1, 2, right? So there's 2 spaces. All right, so a whole step is 2 spaces, a half step is only 1 space. So I need you to understand that. And then I want you to see that the pattern here of whole and half steps for a major scale is it starts out on, you know, in this example, we're starting out on C. So it's whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And I'll give you a second to think about that again while I mark it on the screen here. Okay, so here it is, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And so I don't expect this to make sense without you trying it on the keyboard. So I want you to take a moment and like try this on a keyboard. Use an app if you don't have access to a keyboard right now. Just get your phone or tablet out and play around a little bit. So, okay, there's your first note. You go up a whole step, whole. Then this next one is a half. Then you have whole, 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 and half. All right, so that is a major scale. And the cool thing is that if I take that same pattern of wholes and halves and I start it on a different note, I'm going to see that I'll have to use some black keys in order to make that pattern work. And so I'm not just going to show you that really quick, and that'll be the end of this video. Okay, so now I've shifted over my keyboard a little bit. So now I'm going to start the same thing on a D. And so the D is going to be my one note. And let's apply this principle here. Oops. See, here we go. Okay, so there's my D. All right, so let's see if I can make the scale sound the same, right? So if I just stay on the white keys, it's not going to be good because it's going to sound like this. There's my D. It's going to go. That does not sound the same. That's actually a different kind of scale. In order to have this pattern, I need to do whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So I'm going to start out on a D. I'm going to go whole. There we go, up to an E. That's no problem. But now in order to do a whole step, I have to get up to an F sharp, right? So now I get my half step. There we go. And then my whole again, whole, whole. But now I need another whole. And there we go. So this doesn't totally line up with the keys because I shifted it over. But basically it's D, E, and then F sharp. And so it's not this white key, it's that one up there. Okay, that's my F sharp. Boy, that looks bad. Let's see if I can point to that a little clearer. There we go. And then we have our G, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and then we don't play this one, we play our C sharp, which is up here to make the pattern, and then we're back to D again. So we have to play 2 different sharp keys in order to make this work. And I'll show you that again. So there's my D scale, has 2 sharps in it. I'll just show you a couple more examples really quick. Okay, now we're in the key of G. We're going to start the same scale on a G. And so let's find out what the notes should be. So I have my G. Got my whole, and you can use your ear to guide you. There's my half step, no problem there. So, you know, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound quite like a major scale because it has that funny note in it. So we need to listen, and we also need to realize, oh, I need to have my whole step here. So from this note, I have to go up to there, that sharp, and then we have our half step up there. So this is the only sharp that the G scale has in it. It's an F sharp. So it's G, A, B, D, E. Sorry, I said the wrong note. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G, right? So that's what a G scale has in it. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, which is up here, and then back to my G again. Okay, so there's my G scale. I'll show you just one more example and then we'll end this video. Okay, final example for today. We're going to start on an F. And so here's our F note. And let's just go ahead and play through that scale. So there's our F. Again, if we try playing it on all the white notes, something's going to sound a little funny. Let's see. So there was a note in here, that one there. That one sounds a little funny. Doesn't sound like it quite fits. So let's go back to our pattern here. We start with the A, we have a whole step, another whole step, but now here we need a half. So we got to go up to that B flat. Then we have another whole step, a whole step, a whole step, and a half. So there we go. So the only note that we need to change is that B flat. So we have F, G, A, B flat, and I'm just going to write it here, but point up to the key that it is, right? F, G, A, B flat. Then we have our C, D, E, and back to F again. All right, now how do I know that this is a B flat and not an A sharp? And the answer is, I just want to have all the letters, right? So F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, so that's why I choose to call it a B flat, not an A, because then if I did call it an A, it would be F, G, A sharp, then there wouldn't be a B in there, and then I'd have two A's and not a B, right? So that's the way we choose which name we're going to call the black key. All right, hopefully that made sense, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.